Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Julie Salmon. I work here at the Alumni Office, and I want to welcome everyone to our very last HU Talk of 2024. We've had some fantastic talks, and the next one coming up is, we may have saved the best for last. I'm just going to put it out there. So I want to thank everyone for their attendance, for asking great questions, for your support of these people who have dedicated their time to presenting these talks on this variety of subjects that we've all found so interesting. And so before we get started, I do want to take just a minute to once again thank our sign language interpreters. It's been great that we've been able to make these talks accessible, and we're so honored and pleased to have had these talks facilitated by Professor Carol Litherland. And thank you, Adrienne. I don't know if I pronounced your name right, but thank you to you and all of your cohort for being here for these series of talks. And I do want to mention, we are heading into the end of the week now where all of our in-person homecoming events are going to be taking place. And a big one is our Cowboy 5K. This is a 5K run and walk, and it's open for anyone who would like to participate. And we will, it's going to be great weather. So it's probably never going to get any better than this. And I hope we get as many people out to do this walk on a beautiful Saturday morning. And of course, right after you're finished, you'll be able to head over to watch the parade in front of Kennedy and get a breakfast burrito. We provide those to the community. And if you're not completely full, well, you can head right over to the tailgate afterwards and have a hamburger or hot dog prepared by our alumni board before you head into the football game at high noon. So with that, I would like to introduce our next speaker and the subject. The name of this talk is Supply Chain and Its Effects on Small Business. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Joseph A. Milczewski, an assistant professor at New Mexico Highlands University and the visionary behind our new supply chain management program. Dr. Milczewski has been instrumental in developing this critical emphasis within the business administration degree, preparing students for a field that has become essential in today's world. His expertise covers the full spectrum of supply chain management, from large corporations to small businesses, illustrating its importance at every level. Under his leadership, Highlands has partnered with institutions like Los Alamos National Laboratories to ensure students gain the practical skills and knowledge needed to address the complexities of modern supply chains. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Milczewski as he shares his insights on this vital topic.
Thank you very much. Everybody can hear me? And I'm going to share my screen. I got a little PowerPoint I put together based on this. So is everybody, can everybody see that? Hello?
Right now we see you.
You see me. Let me do that again then. Share screen. It's not the right one. Hang on one second here. Oh, that's why I lost my PowerPoint. Give me 2 seconds to pull it back up.
No problem. We're at the end of the day, so you can take as much time as you need.
Okay, yeah. There we go. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. I have been involved in business. I actually came out of the business world, let's say. This program started in January to not small, but the supply chain management. And I have been teaching since then. We offer 7 classes here in curriculum. We have 3 on the undergraduate level and 4 on the graduate level. And we hope to be pretty soon transferring this into both a Bachelor of Science and Master of Science program here. Hopefully, and is one, once we do get the Master of Science, will be one of the only universities throughout the country that would have something like that. So I have been involved in small business, working for small businesses, working for big businesses. And my background is in capital projects, maintenance, things like that. So I've definitely been involved in the supply chain. And since I've started this job here and doing the teaching, found out that one of the things we seem to lack when we look at supply chain is we're always concerned about the big guys. We always hear about, the Amazons, and I'll show you Starbucks, Coca-Cola, that, you hear about them. Oh my God, supply chain, we're going to have issues. Ships are backed up in Long Beach. We were having all types of problems, paper products, cleaning products, things like that. But I found out through some of my research that, the big guys are usually okay. There's a lot of capital. There's a lot of money involved. They have their issues. They do have a lot of planning, risk management. But, like I say, it's what about the little guy, the small guy? So, to define supply chain management, I just pulled this out of it's called it's an Association of Supply Chain Management. It's an association that deals with education. It's, I think, 40,000 members around the world from different supply chain jobs, basically. So supply chain is that design, planning, execution, control, and monitoring of the supply chain, which further on the supply chain is not, it used to be thought of as supply end of it. Our business buys something from someone else. That's supply. That's purchasing. Well, now we've redefined that scope with globalization, and what we call define supply chain now is from that first person. If it's the farmer growing produce, and he's actually got his supply chain because he might have chemicals. He has people, John Deere, tractor, things like that, all the way to the end user. And with recycling efforts and things like that, we now actually have a reverse supply chain. So it's just a cycle in a lot of instances, especially where there is recycling. And one of the things we recently had, Vina and I, there was an article written about the program, promoting the program, the supply chain management program. And the person who put together the article asked me, what is the supply chain management? And my answer to him is, what is it? Everybody's involved in the supply chain on a personal level, or involved on a supply chain in businesses, from the smallest single standalone guy who repairs shoes at a shoe shop to the Amazons and the Walmarts. And we are either a part of a supply chain, or whether personal or professionally, or we're part of one, or we have our own. We have our own suppliers. We have our own end users. We sometimes are the end user ourselves. In business, we may be supplying someone else with something, somebody supplying us with product or goods or services. So there really isn't, it is kind of, there's no business around that isn't part of a supply chain, or it actually doesn't have a supply chain that they're involved with, that they are part of, let's say, personally or professionally. So I've actually worked at Starbucks. I was this is a plant over outside of Columbia, South Carolina. And you see a big, huge plant. There's probably about 8 million pounds of coffee beans in that warehouse. The guys up there looked at. I was the construction manager for this. But you know what? COVID hit. And, we had the issues where we couldn't get into Starbucks. They were closed for a while. We had all that type of stuff. They only had drive-through service, things like that. But in the end, when you looked at it, what did Starbucks do? They ended up donating to other, various organizations during COVID. So when you look at something like that, you could kind of think about it and go, well, they went ahead and they took money and supported other organizations. So, it did hurt them, but it didn't hurt them to the extent they couldn't spend any money, do anything. Starbucks is very they're into that. They know how to handle their money. This plant was built during the middle of a recession to show you how their feelings are about some of that. But what happened is you could still get a cup of Starbucks coffee. It was always out there. My daughter works at Coca-Cola bottling. They did the same thing. And when you look at the same type of situation, they went and helped, provided Coke, provided food to food banks, healthcare, community organizations. So same thing. They hurt, but to show you how much they hurt, they were actually giving things out. So they have the capital, they have the resources to handle, even though COVID was one of the worst we've seen in a lifetime, probably, next to World War II or something like that. We have all these, they had all these resources. I put down their risk mitigation plans, the finances. This is Coca-Cola bottling. They're the biggest bottler for Coca-Cola. They're about, I think it's a it's a $12 billion company. So, they were able to get through that financially, things like that. But my question and I've been looking into, what about the little guy? There's an oatmeal, you go in there, buy what type of oatmeal you want. That's kind of an interesting thing. And then you have a coffee shop over there, standalone coffee shop probably. So you have the small business, but what about them? They don't have, they're not a $12 billion company. They don't have the finances, resources to handle a lot of this stuff. They're open. They have a supply chain, very small supply chain, which matters too. If you're a vendor and you support Amazon, or you support this young lady over on the coffee shop on the right, you want to support. But if it becomes a question of who, I have something and I could give it either to Amazon or to her, you're going to Amazon because that's probably where your money is coming from, your revenue and your sales. So who loses out on a lot of this stuff when it comes to the supply chain is the little business, the small business. So some of the things that are interesting, and this kind of ties in. I really was kind of interested because I'm going to bring up something else when it comes to some natural disasters and stuff. But Jerry was earlier today had got into the entrepreneurial thing, and what's great about when you do presentations like this, I didn't really realize that, and I listened to the one this morning. And that dealt with the biology and the waters around here and things like that, from the fire, from the floods. And then I listened to Jerry about the entrepreneurial part of it, the small business, starting a business. And it was really cool because actually what I'm going to present in a couple minutes, what Jerry presented, it all ties into what I'm presenting, even though we weren't collaborating with one another. It was pretty interesting to see how, these aren't just standalone presentations. You could find something, where they all interconnect. One of the things I got this to show you, 99.9% of businesses, American business, are considered small business. Now, this is through this Office of Advocacy for the Small Business Administration. If you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see that that's considered under 500 employees. So 99.9% of businesses in the U.S. are considered small businesses. There are now different ways, Security Exchange Commission, some other ones, they have different ways of doing that by business. Some break it down into industry, some of it do by revenue. But usually in my research, I found the numbers always to be in the 90s, and usually the mid to high 90s, depending. So that number does not vary too much. This is very high, that they use. You can see right here, 33 million businesses in the United States, small businesses. It's a lot of businesses. Employ 61.7%. 61.7 million. You could just look down there, some of the issues about private sector payroll, things like that. So you can see lots of businesses. If you go down there too, about 38% of small businesses use specialized software, which helps in a lot of situations with supply chain. But when you think about it, you go, well, that's kind of a high number. But then you realize that means that the 62% behind that don't use this specialized software, what are they using? You know, is it paper and pencil? Is it, you know, what are they using? If it isn't a software, you know, program, what is it that they're using? So presently, you know, we don't see too much help. And I heard Jerry mention this too about helping small businesses. I'm going to focus a little bit on disaster side of this too, because that's where you run into a lot of issues with the supply chain, with these small businesses. Right now, Small Business Association offers loans usually around $5 million. But what the problem is even though it's in an emergency situation, a lot of times it takes time. You apply, you know, the government's a bureaucracy and it takes time. So they go and they have to apply, and it may take a while. You know, if their business is destroyed, partially destroyed, something happens, you don't have a lot of time. You know, before your business will fail, basically. You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, Starbucks, companies like that, they got money in the bank. Starbucks is a $32 billion company, coffee company, $32 billion. You know, they got things to fall back on. The problem with this is it's a reactive program. Something hits, boom, you know, what can be offered? It doesn't have to be money, but what can be offered to small businesses to help them? You know, I was in maintenance. We always talked about preventive maintenance. What can be done to help them ahead of time? You know, kind of a risk type of a thing. And basically what that is involved is education, which is a good reason why Hounds is starting the supply chain management program. You know, I mentioned degrees, possibly certification programs to help the businesses around the area, you know, Las Vegas, Santa Fe, things like that. So one of the main things is to help those guys is education, how we offer it, what we offer it. That'll be a different thing. But the main thing is helping them try to manage risk. You know, the big companies, they got people who are hired. They hire people. They have consultants. Who does a small business guy have, especially a small business? What if it's a landscaper and it's one man and, you know, his two brothers doing a landscaping business? You know, how do we help them in these type of situations? You know, you do have you know, the fires here, things like that. I haven't found any numbers on how many businesses have closed up because of the fires. So as I mentioned, you know, you have all this financial, strategic, competitive, credibility and reputation, business interruption, disasters, things like that, war, whatever, technology and security and liability. So you do have a lot of risks. And I would be curious to, if you walk up to any small business owner here and say, how many of these do you know about? How are you trained in this? How are you, you know, who has helped you learn more about this? Is you doing a, you know, trial and error? Do you have mentors or help from other business people? So the question is that education, and there's a lot of things to be educated. There's no difference between running this business and running a Starbucks. It's a lot smaller, but basically a business is a business is a business, you know, and the top thing is a business is in business to make money. If they don't make money, they're gone. And when you look at the small businesses, a lot of them are gone after, you know, incidences, you know, natural disasters, things like that. So what I wanted to do is I presently am going to be moving to Las Vegas here in the future. But right now I live in South Carolina. And if you look at that top right, I am in the upstate, right where it hit the worst. This is actually, it hit us bad where I was at. We were 6 days without power. So basically sat in the dark. You know, all the food was gone. You know, my supply chain, luckily, the place I'm living at, there was no damage, but lots of damages, lots of trees. If anybody's familiar with North Carolina, this is called Lake Lure and Chimney Rock. It's around the Biltmore State. You know, it's a very touristy area. This on the bottom left this was happening after Hurricane Helene, what was left over. This yellow building here, this is about 45 minutes from where I live. With this yellow building, I was actually walking on a sidewalk in front, probably about a month ago. So very visiting these areas, but you can see, how does this person recover? I mean, there's, I mentioned the loans, there's FEMA, there's things like that, but how does, if there was some preparation, whatever that would be, how would that have helped him? Now it's going to take a long time to rebuild his business, but there are some businesses you could, you don't need the exact same spot. You can, relocate your business on a temporary basis and stuff like that. But usually when small business people I talk to, they, when that information comes after it happens. Well, if there was a problem here, I know I work for companies where we would say, if we have a problem, a tornado come through, I was from Ohio originally, through Ohio, we have another plant in Kansas City that was able to duplicate what we made in Ohio. Okay, that was it was an issue, but hey, the next day we could start making it somewhere else. This was just a nice little store there, a gift shop type of thing. What's he going to do now? He'll get some insurance, they'll rebuild his building, but what's he going to do in the meantime? How long is that going to take? I mean, I was recently in Inglewood, Florida on vacation. It was about a year ago now, but they had the huge tornado hurricane come through Port Charlotte. And, this was a year later and it was still devastated. So, I mean, these people can't wait a year to get back in business. I just threw this one in because this is what's the remnants of a kiddie park. The problem with that, just to show you I just did this to show you how bad it was, that this kiddie park is located around the corner of this creek up on top of a hill. So you can see just how that ravaged the area, ravaged these businesses. Imagine this small business. This was one of those the kiddie amusement park that had about 6 rides on it. Think of the person doing the business plus, all the people that go there. This is all a tourist area. I don't know if anybody's familiar. If anybody is familiar with the movie Dirty Dancing, this is where Dirty Dancing was. Patrick Swayze in that back in the late 80s. This is their claim to fame. So I just wanted to show you what that was. This Chimney Rock is also part of that Lake Lurie. You could see just all types of, that's the river behind, or the creek. There's really no creek that's been blocked. I just wanted to throw this in to show you other supply chain management. This, behind this garage down there, my house is actually on the other side of the woods, and the woods are only about 75 feet. So if that tree would have fell the other way, it would have fell on the house that I lived in. But here, this is an apartment complex. He's a small business. This happened. This is one of them. He had trees down all over the place. And so what happened is that, I remember hearing the chainsaws at 2:00 in the morning trying to cut these trees for access, but he's got to react immediately. These trees fell on some couple of cars that were parked across from the garage. And I threw this one in. It's, look at what happened here. This is the same complex. This is supply chain that broke down. What do? Look at all the garbage that's piling up. And I'm going to probably say that it may have gotten picked up. I've been here. Let's see, when I came on Friday. So who knows if that's picked up, but that's just showing you the supply chain. There is a supply chain here. There's, somebody's got to come pick up the garbage. It's a sanitary issue. You realize that there's still people in danger. They say there's still 80 people missing up in North Carolina, but to show how this affects the supply chain, especially on a small business. I talked to the people that live here, and there's one person owns this complex. There's about 100 units. So another small business. And, he does have the insurance, but what happened to his supply chain in the meantime? So I just wanted to bring that point up. It's kind of research that I'm really starting to get involved in, and just looking at that small guy, since it's important, because I think they get overlooked. And hopefully in the development of the program further on, I'm looking at I'm looking at putting together a class, offering a class on small business and supply chain, take that further out on top of some other, sustainability, things like that. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the small business and what I've been kind of doing. And it was kind of interesting because this happened September 26th. while I was putting together this presentation. I couldn't put it together because I ran out of power, but it kind of provided just to show you what happened locally. And I know, the fire here, I've heard so much about it. I've seen remnants of it already traveling around, 2 years later, and I, saw the floods, at least the pictures of the floods and things like that. So, okay, this is New Mexico, that's South Carolina. Hurricane Milton is hitting the Tampa, St. Petersburg area here, on top of everything else. So, what else is going on? And it's just the idea of how do we help? How do we get these small businesses, so they're not like this? This isn't going to be a cure-all, but what can we do to help these businesses besides just a reactive, hey, here's some money. We did that in COVID. We gave them money to pay their employees, but not so much in the way of anything to do with supply chain. It's mostly a disaster relief in a lot of these situations. So that's all I had. I accept any questions. Anybody got any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Milczewski. Does anyone have any questions? I was
No
gonna say,
question, just a comment. I really like your
Oh.
presentation, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I guess I do have one. How did you deal with your classes last week, since you didn't have electricity for 6 days?
What I did in some of the classes, I mean, I was in contact, I had my phone. So
Yeah.
that was the only thing I had between me. And this is kind of ironic. Well, I had no electricity. So between my wife, myself, and we actually temporarily having my daughter living with us, we were out at the car at 2:00 in the morning with the car running, charging our phones. So this was about the only thing. It was through emails, things like these was synchronous classes. What I was able to do, it was kind of ironic. The only one I missed one, but what I did is I basically told the students, I'm going to record a lecture for you and we'll do it, do it that way. But luckily it was only 5 days. It was Thursday through Monday. So at least it made it a little bit. I was a little tough prepping for classes for the second 8 weeks, but I'm still doing it here. So but yeah, it just found a way. Yeah, I was a project manager, so I figured there was some way. I made it into a project and figured how it worked and we could do it. We went to all the areas of the city that had, power, Wi-Fi, sat at McDonald's and Starbucks and did some work that way too. But I look at it this way: it's only electricity. It's a lot of people have a lot worse off than that. So
yes, I hear you.
I think that now with that hurricane, I think we're at, 3 days ago, there were over 200 dead and 80 still missing. But, and what do they do? Because those areas are actually, the part that got hit the worst in North Carolina, those are up in the mountains. Asheville got hit really bad. That's a little bigger city, but a lot of them are these little small towns up in the mountains. What's happening. I mean, right now they're still just looking for survival, but what happens to their supply chain, personally and the businesses around here too.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
I guess I have one more question if nobody has a question. What was your research topic? For your dissertation, did you do it on?
Actually, I was in a little different situation. On the academic side, my dissertation I was actually, my DBA's got a leadership concentration. I did it on corporate social responsibility. So I actually tied it into where I lived in Northeast Ohio, but it was basically corporate, and that was kind of similar. It was kind of, community aspect, what these companies do for the community. It's been in recent years, I've kind of flipped that over to supply chain management because my background's been, on I would say the practitioner side, working at different businesses and being involved in the supply chain for 30 plus years now.
Well, I think that both go hand in hand.
Yes,
And I
yeah,
think
oh
people
yeah,
are-
well, without the leadership, you're
Yeah.
not gonna have, everything's top down. Corporate social responsibility, any program or anything, so, supply chain management, risk management, it's top down. If you don't have the people on top thinking, driving it, at least in that top level type of a thing, up in the sky type of thing, it won't get done, lower down. So you're right, because they do tie in together.
Mhm. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I might have missed it, but what did you study as an undergraduate?
Well, believe it or not, I started out life as an airplane mechanic. I went to school and got an airplane, and my bachelor is actually in aerospace engineering. And what happened is when I started working, I just kind of diverged over into other types of engineering from aerospace. Aerospace wasn't doing good when I graduated, so, and I'm glad I got into with project management. I was able to travel the world and learn lots of things and see lots of things, so it worked out very well for me. But yeah, I was my MBA was in leadership concentration, and my DBA was that too. But yeah, it started out in aerospace, kind of a different type of a thing.
Well, it's led you to the right path, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've one of the things I've always wanted to do since I've been young was teach, and at the college level, and this kind of came up. If you want to say out of nowhere, I was like, whoa, this is what I'm looking for. And interviewing with everybody, Melanie included. They wanted me, and they said I fit in perfect. So here I am plugging away.
Well, I'm glad you're going to be moving to our community.
Yes, looking forward to it.
We're experiencing beautiful weather right now, so
Yeah,
not
to say
typical.
one thing I gotta say is that hurricane, and living in South Carolina for 20 years, never really got hit by a hurricane all that time. I've always been lucky, lived inland, and this is really far inland where I'm at. This is on the other side of the state, western side of the state. So never experienced it. But I gotta say, when you mentioned the weather, it was Thursday, Friday was cloudy, Saturday and Sunday were the most beautiful days you can imagine. So even after the hurricane, things calmed down, and it was beautiful. I was sitting outside in the yard reading a book, because it was just so beautiful.
Well, are there other questions, or should we let Dr. Milczewski go on his way today?
I have more questions, but Joe, we can talk when we meet.
Okay, well, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get together.
Yeah, we will. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll text you.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. And just to, close out our homecoming, because this is the last HU talk, just to let everybody know that, mark your calendar for October 31st, Thursday. We have a Day of the Deaf art project participatory ephemeral sawdust mural happening. And that is going to be in the sub courtyard, and it's led by our dean of the school, Facundo Valdez School of Social Work, Cesar Barca. So that's open for everybody to participate in. And so it's a little different take on a Halloween activity. And so we hope you'll all join us for that. Well, thank you, Dr. Milczewski. And this has been fascinating. And I hope you have all kinds of students taking your classes.
We are.
Ready
It's
to
getting
learn.
better. It's good.
All right. Thank you all.
Good night. Good day.